Hey there guys, welcome back to part 3 of the goat project. Part 1, I built the little welded gate that is now attached to the goat fence, which I built in part 2. And if you remember from part 2, at the end of that, I talked about building a little goat barn. And as you can see, it is about halfway finished. One thing I do want to note before I take you back and show you how I've constructed all this, all of the vertical pieces I made with the movie theater steel that I used on the fence, and I kind of did that whenever I had time, so I didn't really video that, but it was the same process. I used my Ryobi 40-volt auger to auger a 2.5-foot hole, concrete it in, and it really helped to save on some of the wood that I would need to build walls. So anyway, that is that. And basically what I'll do is I'll take you back, show you how I got it to this point, and then I'll site it, trim it out, and get it kind of looking nice, and then it'll definitely be ready for goats. But before I do that, I do want to say thank you to the Home Depot Prospective and Ryobi Power Tools for sponsoring this video. As you know, I've been using Ryobi tools for forever, 20 years at least, and I buy all my materials and stuff from Home Depot, and everything I don't buy, all the reused, recycled stuff, I get right here on this property from Joe Depot. So anyway, let's get started. So at this point, the main structure of the goat barn is pretty much finished, and it is just about ready for me to start adding the corrugated metal roofing onto the sides and the roof. And that is just going to be some old roofing that was taken off my house roof several years ago that was damaged in a pretty big hailstorm. But before I do, I wanted to do a quick walk around just because I'm sure some of you may have some questions on why the sides of this don't have as much structure in regard to wood as you would normally find in like a shed or a barn type of build. And that is because I tried to use some more of that movie theater steel for all of the vertical supports. And anyway, I'll show you that now, and hopefully I'll answer some questions that you may have seen when you saw me framing all this up. Now, if you watched the video where I built the goat fence, you will already know that the main structure of this goat barn was kind of incorporated into the fence. You'll see those corner posts are all in line with that line of fencing and that one as well. And what I did is just added some extra posts right here to hold the ridge beam up, and then one over there. And then I just added a couple of intermediate posts so I could give a little more rigidity to the horizontal pieces of wood that will eventually have the corrugated metal tin on them. But I did run into a couple of issues which may have looked a little bit strange on camera. And number one, that is what you're going to notice. That is exactly in the center of the goat barn, and that is because I put this piece of steel angle aligned right with the center point of this would-be structure. So what I had to do is cut off the piece of angle that goes up right there, and you'll notice this side of the angle actually goes up in between those two pieces of wood because I wanted to keep that center point perfectly center. So that's why it looked just a little bit off. But you know what, when you're working with a steel angle like this, sometimes you just have to figure it out as you go. And that little guy right there is going to be a support because I'm going to have a goat platform that will go right here for them to sleep on, and then there will be an additional loft up here for supplies or whatever I decide. So that is what that is for. And I think that's pretty much it. I have been debating if I am going to add another piece of wood here just for when we do have really windy days so the tin doesn't flex too much. But I don't think it's totally necessary, but I guess you'll see that here in just a little bit. And one more thing I wanted to point out for those of you who might be wondering why there is no truss structure in between those rafters that you would normally see on conventional structures like a shed or a smaller barn. Well, that is because this ridge beam up here is transferring all of the load down to these vertical supports that are concreted into the ground. Therefore, there is no outward push on the sidewalls, which is traditionally what a truss will help to prevent by having the cross members keeping the rafters from pushing outward. I don't know if that made total sense, but essentially it's just not necessary, as well as the fact that I wanted to keep this headroom in here because I do plan on putting this little loft structure up here. And if you had a bunch of trusses, it would end up impeding that space just a little bit. So at this point, the exterior of the little goat barn is getting pretty close to finished, although I still do need to add gutters on either side of the roof. And then I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to enclose one side of this or not with like a movable barn door kind of thing. And then I will eventually be closing that little triangular section off with probably a piece of sheet metal of some sort, but I'm not sure just yet. But I did want to show you the inside because I really didn't show too much of the building of this little loft section or this little goat sleeping platform. This is 42 inches deep and 8 foot long. And then this little loft section up there, I just put there either to be able to store like supplements or feed or whatever. So I'm not sure if I'm going to add like a little railing there to keep the goats from getting up there, or if I'll just end up building some other little shelves or something like that for the different supplies that my daughter has deemed necessary for this project. And then one other thing I want to point out, you're going to notice little holes. Well, this is because all this roofing was old roofing that was damaged from a hailstorm, and all of those have been siliconed in, so it's just allowing light through, but it is definitely watertight. And I think that is pretty much it. This is about 18 to 20 inches off the ground. I just looked online and we found research and seemed like a good height for the goats to be up off the ground. And I guess the next thing you're going to see is if I decide to put railing there, a shelf there, and or a door there. Alright guys, well I think that is pretty much going to do it for this part of the goat project. As always, I hope it was interesting and perhaps gave you some ideas on a project you might be working on for yourself. Now I'm going to try to answer a few questions that you might have had about some of the things I said I was going to do on this barn, as well as what is to come next in this goat project. So first I'll address the questions pertaining to what I said I was going to do with this maybe just a couple of minutes ago in the video. The little barn door that I said I might be enclosing this side with, well, I've got enough lumber to frame it out, but I am pretty much done with the tin that you saw me sheet this with. And until I figure out what I want to infill the door with to kind of, you know, have it look somewhat matching, I think I'm just going to leave it as is. I think everything will be watertight, and being that summer and spring is upon us in Arizona, all the extra ventilation is going to be good. I'm sure some people will ask if the goats are going to be jumping off that portion of the loft to try to get out. Well, if it ends up being an issue, then I'll just build something there, or I will go about building that door. So anyway, for those of you who might have had that question, and the next thing I mentioned that I was going to do was to add some shelves along this wall for various like goat supplies, brushes, tools, and different things that my daughter's researched that we are going to be needing for the goats. Some of the things we have gotten, but not everything yet. Well, I think I'm just going to play that by ear. When we get the goats, I'll kind of figure out what seems the best. So basically I'm just going to abstain from doing that right now. And that also leads into another question that I'm sure some of you may have. Why I didn't build this big enough to store some bales of hay and sacks of goat feed. Well, the reason for that was kind of answered about a minute ago. I just don't have as much of that roofing as I thought I had, so I just framed this up based on what I knew I could sheet it in. But I do have some ideas. You see my garden there with like the little compost tumblers. Well, that side of the fence is an area that I can back my truck up into, so I may make the hay and feed storage right there, something where I can back the truck up into, slide the bales of hay into some other little structure that will probably I'll have a good time making. So anyway, hopefully that answers that question. And then I think the last question that some of you may have is going to pertain to why I don't have goats in here just yet. Well, the question or the answer to that is because my daughter, as part of a homeschool project, she wants to get these goats, and she's having to give us reports and do little presentations on various aspects of it. And the culmination of all of that is for us to go to our county fair, which is, I think, in about a week. And she's going to go through all the goat shows, talk to some of the 4-H kids and people who are showing goats as part of what her mom and I are kind of wanting her to do as far as research. And then after that, we are going to get the goats, and then you'll see the watering system, food, and obviously a lot of the playground type equipment. So I think that is pretty much it. My dog is chasing something in the desert, so if you hear that in the background. And I'm thinking I'm just going to end the video there. As always, I appreciate you guys watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you like this. And if you want to check me out on Rumble or Odyssey, you can also see my videos there. And I guess we'll see you on the next goat project or whatever else I do. See ya.